a 10-year hiatus. At the ripe age of, believe it or not, 15, I got married, which is unheard of now, I would think, but I did. And at the age of 20, oh, I'm going to say 24, I got interested in spiritual and personal development and growth, like what's going on. And it just started a whole series of becoming a master hypnotist, hypnotherapist, and understanding the mind and the unconscious mind. From there, I felt I learned everything about the mind, how it works. And then I spent 10 years studying under Chuck Spezzano's courses and stuff, where I was a senior group leader, working all with the emotions and how it affects our body and how the mind plays into the emotions affects the mind. And I spent 15 years doing that. From there, I ended up going to India and spent 10 years in India because I said, okay, I've got all this stuff all right. And now I want to learn more about who am I? And there's got to be more than to this. In my mind, it's like I had fixed everything I had fixed, but there was something more. And that took me to India, where I spent 10 years self-inquiry meditation and as a spiritual guide, and took groups to India. And then I also took my yoga teacher training. So I did that. So I'm pretty holistic. I've also got 2 years of level 2 somatic training. I've got so many things, I guess I don't know how to count them all, but it was just a well-rounded, really totally interested in why we do what we do and how things work out and where are we the creators in our life and where are we messing up. And that took me with my own history of relationships to now I have went online and I'm working with women. I have a passion working for women, mostly because I'm a woman. I've also worked with a lot of men, but I think it's just in our times when it comes to relationships and stuff, I think I'm not being prejudiced, but I think women suffer most economically, when a relationship fails and if they have family and children. And because I have children and grandchildren, I believe that when we don't have it right as a woman, we drag our children into this, and then our children are left to go see the counselors and the therapists. And it was kind of like, maybe if we can get this right and help this, we can stop this perpetuating down the line. And the apple doesn't fall from the tree, far from the tree, is the way I believe it. And having children of my own, I also have a real belief that what I don't heal, my children have to heal. So what I've healed, it frees my children.
I
So
know for me, I had to learn so much about myself when it came to dating. And one of the pitfalls for me as I dated, especially in my 20s, was I felt I wasn't worthy because I had this idea of what a successful relationship was. I won't say perfect because perfect is like Disney, right?
sure.
Put on the glass slipper, she wakes up and we ride off, and everyone who hated us, they all of a sudden magically become our best friends and best
Yeah.
men at the wedding, right? But when I realized that I had to do more to get more, that's where I had to accept from an ego perspective that, hey, Train, as good looking as you may think you are, as successful as you may think you are, you may not still be good enough because there's other aspects of relationships that you need to bring to the table. So that's how I started my journey into understanding relationships, understanding women, and trying to be as successful as possible. One of the points you raised, which I loved, was that women, at least here in Canada, based on the numbers, as they get older, post a divorce, post a long term relationship, they begin to suffer financially, right?
Oh,
Because
they
you
do.
begin to see that, right? But I
Yeah.
think what some people may confuse is that in the immediate aftermath of a divorce, yes, most times women get alimony, they get things of that nature. So they're okay a few years afterwards. But it's like the 5 years, the 10
Yeah.
years, the
Yeah.
15 years. I think that's what people don't see. So speak to us about that and how we can clarify maybe some of the myth of that. When a woman gets divorced, she's living this high life, she's rich, she goes and gets a pool boy as her boyfriend, and she lives happily after. So let's speak about that a bit.
Well, Statistically, and I do have the statistics, but they're not on the top of my head right now. I think it's well over 47%. This was the US statistics that live in poverty. Women with children actually live in poverty. Don't forget, women generally, and this is no prejudice against men, because I now have an amazing son-in-law and my own son, which I've raised to the point where he's looking after the kids and partaking in all of that. But statistically, women are the caregivers. And so they miss work. Okay. They cannot necessarily go to work. They're in charge of pay the babysitters and everything else. So their finances, even though it looks like this is for general population, they are living in poverty. Women are who have children to raise. If you're single, it's not a problem per se, but most when it comes under when you have children, that's where the poverty comes. Because when a child gets sick, who stays home? If she's the only caregiver and she's there, she stays home. She misses work. So in the long run, it just adds up and it's hard. And just generally speaking, also, is women are lower paid than men. That's just a given. That has been proven over and over again. So already they have a disadvantage. But as a caregiver, because they're primary caregivers, their responsibility is to the children. And so that there's babysitter, if a babysitter can't come into play, if the daycare closes, just one of my nieces, there was pink eye going around and the daycare closed. So what does she do? She can't, she has to stay home. So there's loss of work. There's also sometimes what happens, employers don't want her to stay on because she's either missing too much work if the child is sick a lot. So that just leads into the poverty as well. So I think, let alone poverty, there's just the struggle of being a single woman. And then what I have found in my work is when a woman is with children and she's single, it's almost like the hardship is already there and she's more prone to choose a relationship that is not really healthy and good for her because it's an escape for her. And that's her saving grace. That's her like, oh, I just need some help and I need some support. So she's hungry, so she'll choose whatever she can get, in a sense. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I've been there myself. Like until you're full, can you really make a good choice of what you're going to take? And when a woman is empty and she's exhausted and she's tired, and I mean, all of these things, someone comes in, and please, I'm not generalizing like all the women, but I'm just sort of saying they become more needy, more willing to accept something that is not going to work because, oh, they've got financial support, they've got the ease. It just gives them some kind of relief. Yeah.
One of the best examples I could give to that is if you come out of a serious relationship or long-term relationship and it ends and you truly believe you've given your all, like you've given your best version of this man, your best version of this woman. And now that it's ended for whatever the reasons, right? It could be that you two have grown apart. It could be
Sure.
that the ideals that you had 5 years ago is not the same as today. Simple,
Yeah.
right? Um, Now you're in a situation where you're older, you have more responsibilities if there's children involved,
Yeah.
right? Those are mouths to feed and things of that nature. So you have a choice to make. Either you're going to do it all on your own, which is quite difficult,
Yes.
or you may try to do it with someone that at least can supplement what you're offering, meaning that if you're earning X amount of income and you need additional income, that person may be that, and that may be all that you're looking for. And I think one of the struggles that women have is they fall into the trap, as you mentioned, where they're like, okay, I just can't do this on my own. This person maybe is not the best of person, but there's someone that can at least give me something. Is that some of the struggles that maybe women have?
Very much so. I'm sort of also talking on the really behind the shades, as you say, is the more deeper where they get into really dysfunctional relationships where they might choose someone who's an addictive behavior and the children got to live with this, or someone who is really unkind, is, getting away with a lot of stuff. And there's a desperation, at least they're getting a roof on my head. But let's go to the one that says, hey, look, I'm willing to come into your family and I'm willing to support you and I'm a kind and loving person. I think if there's some kind of love, we still are role models to our children, and if there's no real connection, I think our children will grow up not knowing what a connection is. And then so they go out to a relationship and they don't necessarily know what real connection is. Instead of it's like, it's a space where I do this for this. They don't have the real connection. Now, a lot of people manage that for a while. They need, they go into relationships for purpose. But I think sometimes that's where they fade. When the purpose is over with, when the children are gone, where's the connection? And that's when it falls apart. I'm talking about healing ourselves and looking at this whole thing as a long-term relationship. So you're going beyond just the purpose, like you'll do all this with me, but when you can't do this, where's the connection? Where's the intimacy? Where's the connection? So that's the way I like to look at it. But you're right. I think every relationship starts in with a purpose, but I like to go further than that because that's what kids will end up feeling is this is just their purpose. Yeah.
For me to heal, I had to take time away from the dating market.
Yeah.
If I had children, I don't think I would have the ability to take time away because there's always that reminder. There's always the presence of the other person. There's always, for a lot of people, that comparison. Like if you and I were married and we divorced, right?
Yeah.
And we share children, and when I drop off the children to you, I see you and this good looking man that you're dating. And if I'm the type of person where I'm just not able to make relationships work, but I see you making it work, then it's a constant reminder of that I haven't succeeded in a way that you have exceeded.
Yeah.
So how do we help women in that case who are experiencing that understand that it's okay to take a break from the dating market, take care of your children, heal yourself as you mentioned, and then when you're able to provide a full healed version of yourself, then you can get back into the dating market and do so.
I don't think it's okay to take a break. I think it's necessary to take a break. I think you need to take a break. I think it is so important to take a break, to heal yourself. I think everyone goes into a relationship wanting it to be everlasting. I don't know of anyone who goes into a relationship thinking, oh boy, I can have a divorce later on. I don't think anyone does. They want it everlasting. And regardless whether it's through a divorce or a death, there is huge loss and grief, even when the partner is not the right partner. There's the death of the dream, the death of the hope, the death of what you actually strive to get. So I think it is super necessary to stop and to do your work so you get it right. And I think so many people are don't have the role models, are uneducated about what they are playing in a part in, what they are doing, and how they can change it. So no, I don't think it's okay. I think it's necessary. I think in order to have a true, honest, authentic relationship, that this is so important. And that's my stand.
I 100% agree with you. I'm the type of person that take a step away and don't even log into the dating apps because it's so
Exactly.
easy, right? Like I look at some of my female friends, and many of them are divorced. Some have had relationships, some haven't, and some are just trying to make it work. And when they're bored or when they're looking for their fix, as they call it these
Yeah.
days, they'll just go on the dating apps and just
Yeah.
swipe, right? And I ask them the question, this person that you're going on this date with, do you see a future with them? They will say no. And then my follow up question, probably the same question you asked, then why are you entertaining this person?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like, Terrain, it's Christmas. It's
I'm
cold
bored. I'm
outside. I'm
lonely.
bored. I'm lonely. It's been 6 months since I did it.
Yeah.
Help a girl out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do you speak to that demographic that
You know,
they don't necessarily miss the lifestyle or um the social value of being in a relationship. They just miss not having a bed that is cold night after night
exactly.
after night.
I think this has been a mystery to me. This has been an absolute mystery to me. Is, there's the old saying is like, you got to be whole first. And a relationship is actually the cherry on top. I really firmly believe that. Be whole. And that's where sort of my spiritual training in India did. is being able to meditate. I used to meditate in the caves for like 10 hours a day as just sitting with myself. And when you can learn to sit with yourself and you can be with yourself, there's something changes within you and you become a really, it's like you're satisfied, you're whole, you know who you are. There's something that shifts. And you don't need, I don't want anyone to have to need a relationship to fulfill them, to be that extra, to give something inside. It's just an indication that you're not whole. I want you to be whole. And when you're whole, then you can date. And then you can be so much more choosing as like it's the icing on the cake. My cake is full. You know, it's a mystery to me. I can say it over and over again. You know, you really need to do this work. I cannot stress it enough because you're just wasting your time and time goes by too fast. You know, and you can see relationships go from, you know, so much investment, you know, oh, well, we'll live together, it'll be a year, but you've got furniture you've invested, you've got an apartment you've invested, and next thing you know, oh, it's split up in a year later, and now you've got to do this whole thing. It just, in today's time, it's just like, get it right, you know? So I don't know. It's a mystery to me. I can keep saying it 1,000 times, but yeah, women, get and men like do your work, really do your work, get inside and just be full inside, know who you
You know,
are.
Melanie, they're trying to have the cherry on top the cake and eat it too. They're trying to get it all out the way because there's that saying, right? The best way to get over someone is to get under someone, right? Sex is such like for so a lot of people, it's become like alcohol, where I've had a rough day, so I'm just gonna be intimate with someone and forget my issues until you have the post, as I call it, you have the post nut clarity, meaning that
Yeah,
after you've climaxed, after you've
yeah,
orgasm, you look at the person, you're like, oh, that was a mistake. But you know next week you're gonna repeat that mistake,
yeah, yeah.
right? And there's two things that I love to say. I call it, this is for the men, pre-nut delusion, which is as you're getting ramped up, you're like, okay, she's nice and she's talking to me this way. And,
Yeah,
I know that it's not going to go anywhere, but you've built it up in your mind, right? Similar
sure.
to a lot of women who are more nurturing in their
Yeah,
personality, who's more wants to be around people, right? Who's more social, where a man can be by himself and still do his thing. Now you build that up and you engage in something that you know isn't really going to go anywhere, something that could be unhealthy. And then after it's done, the post nut clarity, you're like, what the hell did I do?
yeah,
I'm still
yeah.
going to be alone. This house is still as empty as it was. I still don't have any prospects in my dating roster, as they call it.
Hmm.
And I'm bringing all these different type of men around my kids, or I'm bringing all these different type of women around my kids.
Yeah,
What kind of example am I setting for them? Are these
yeah.
some of the conversations that you have with the women that you're assisting with?
I do. And also, there's another side to it, too. It's a lot of people who get together sexually are actually avoiding intimacy. They don't think it's not going to turn out. They're trying to get to third base before doing all the work and discovering that this person is not the person that they want to be with. So there's a way of getting to third base real quick. Well, let's just have sex and we'll call that intimacy. And then all the falseness and all the illusion is built around. Because getting to know someone in a real way, you're going to have boundaries. You're going to say what you want, what you need. But it's just like, I just want to get to third base. I don't want to have to go through that work. For a lot of people, it's really hard for them to say, no, you're not quite working out for me. You know, they just want to get that place right there. So it's a false sense of intimacy. And so a lot of people really think that this is what creates the intimacy. Not that they don't think it's going to last. I think they actually go in, a lot do, thinking, oh, this is going to tie the knot. I don't have to do any of the steps to get there. This just ties it. I'm done. Whew. Okay, now let's just play fantasy world. And of course, it tumbles down.
So are they using intimacy in a way to temporarily heal themselves from what they're experiencing?
No, I would say they're using it's a false sense of intimacy. Okay, real intimacy is I don't think sex is intimacy. I like to look at sex as an expression of the intimacy that you already have. Okay. When you already are intimate with someone, and then an act of love is actually making love. Okay. You don't have sex to get love. That's the way I look at it. And that's how I would like to teach the women is sort of like, and the men too, if they would get that too, is that they're vulnerable, that they're open, and it's an expression of that love is so different than just body to body having sex. So
It's
different.
more than, yeah, it's more than just a rumble in the jungle,
Exactly. Exactly. And there's
right?
nothing wrong with
It's
that too if you already have that. But I'm just saying a lot of it's falsified. A lot of women think, and I'm not just going to say women, I'm going to say men too, but being a woman, okay, and talking and working with a lot of women, think that it's getting to third bay real quick, and all of a sudden, we've had sex, we're in love. And then outcome, unbeknownst to the man, is all the conditions that are met. It's like, holy smokes, now I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that, and vice versa. All the rules come in. And that's that part of the unconscious, because we have an unconscious idea of what we've seen in relationship. And once a couple comes together, it's like, now we're married. All of a sudden, we take on these roles that you never saw. Now we're boyfriend, girlfriend. So our roles unconsciously come in with the titles that we give ourselves. Now that we've made love, whoa, here comes all the unconscious expectations and the ways that it's supposed to be.
I spoke to a sexual coach, not for me, everyone who's watching. But, and she works with women and men. And she made the joke that a lot of women, after they've had a good night of passion, they feel like they're married to these men, right? And I look back at some of the women that I've dated, and they did exactly what you said. They tried to resolve whatever conflict there was through
Yeah.
sexual means.
Yeah.
And it made them feel empowered for that night, two nights, whatever the
Exactly.
case is. But
Yeah.
then afterwards, when big bad terrain will come around and say, hey, do you want to talk about the problem that we had last week? It's always, well, and then they try to bring sexual conversations again, or try to
Yeah.
be intimate, or false sense of intimacy. So how can we define what healthy intimacy looks like versus what false intimacy looks like?
I would say it is being authentic, absolutely real. It's being honest, even if your partner doesn't want to hear what you have to say. Of course, there's always the ways to say it, but I think it's about being transparent, about being authentic by being able to share your journey. Where even though you can be in the same room together, you're sharing, oh, when this happens, I feel this. Like there's real communication going on. Oh, when you do this, this makes me feel. How can we work through this? Or however it be that you're totally open and transparent. That's what I'm saying is true intimacy. But you have to be intimate with yourself first. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you're feeling, and you have to be able to express what you're feeling. So a lot of people don't even know what they're feeling until it gets so big. So it has to get so big. Okay, now I'm angry, but all along there was this rumble but they're not even aware of it. So you have to become intimate with yourself. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's going on in my body? And that's where all my yoga teacher training and everything else came into, is like, what's happening inside? Become intimate with yourself. How am I responding to this? How am I reacting to this? And then I can share this with my partner unreserved. Okay, feeling totally safe to do so. To me, that is the ultimate intimacy. When you've got a partner in crime, you're willing to share your journey, you're willing to share all your stuff. It's but you're taking responsibility for it. I also don't want to make sure you don't want to share all your stuff and just vomit it on them, and it's like there's a whole butt bunch that goes into that. But when you're willing to share that in a real, I'm taking responsibility for what I'm feeling. I'm not blaming you for what I'm feeling. I'm just sharing you what's going on. That to me is absolute intimacy. Yeah.
For those who are watching on Facebook, YouTube, and my social media, stay tuned for more incredible interviews like the one we have with Melanie today. And we will be back